my daughter was 17, she was in the worst car accident imaginable. She was in the back seat with her seatbelt on, her cousin in the front, and 3 of her friends at the back of the car. At 4 a.m. my phone rang. I almost didn't answer, but when it rang again immediately, I knew something was wrong. My niece was screaming into the phone. "Cassie's dead, they're all dead!" Her words barely made sense. I heard more crying, yelling, than a man's voice. He told me the kids had crashed in his yard and it was bad. Some of them were walking around in shock, but one was still trapped. I called my daughter's phone, praying she would answer. When she picked up, her voice was calm. "Mama, don't freak out. If you freak out, I'll freak out." She told me she was stuck, hanging halfway out of the car and couldn't feel her legs. When I got there, the scene was a nightmare. My daughter was still trapped. No fire trucks, no ambulances, just broken glass and twisted metal. My niece was sobbing while my daughter's best friend stood frozen. The car was split in half. I ran to my daughter, brushing her hair from her face. She looked at me, calm despite everything. "Go check on the others," she whispered. The first responders finally arrived and started cutting through the car. They lost her twice in the ambulance but managed to bring her back. When we got to the hospital, they rushed her straight to surgery. I had to sign everything. Blood transfusions, emergency procedures, permission to put her in a coma. It didn't feel real. She survived, but barely. Her bladder was torn, her tailbone was crushed, and she had internal bleeding. The pain was at the absolute limit of what a human body could endure. She spent a month in the hospital before they transferred her to a rehab facility an hour away. I had to work, take care of my son, and hold everything together while traveling through snowstorms just to see her. I've never felt so overwhelmed. A week after the accident, I went back to work. My regular customers knew what happened. Some left extra tips, some just hugged me, but one woman was different. She checked on me every day, wiped my tears when I broke down, and told me I was stronger than I felt. Her name was Mrs. Jones. After 3 months in rehab, the doctor said I could finally take my daughter home. The only problem was she still couldn't walk. She needed a wheelchair, but insurance refused to cover it, and I couldn't afford the rental fee. I was already drowning financially. I didn't know what to do. The next day, the lady came into the restaurant. She asked how things were going, and for the first time, I completely broke down. I burst out into her shoulder, telling her I just wanted my baby home. She held me, whispered, "Everything will work out. You'll find the right person to help you." Then she kissed my forehead and left. That night, I got a call at work. A man asked for me by name. "Mrs. Kelly, you can pick up the wheelchair anytime." I was confused. I told him there must be a mistake, that insurance denied it and I couldn't pay. "Mrs. Jones rented it for as long as your daughter needs. Would you like to pick it up, or should we deliver it?" I dropped the phone. I had never expected someone to do something so selfless. I called the rehab center and told them to start preparing my daughter to come home. 2 months later, I saw Mrs. Jones again. I tried to offer her money, to pay her back little by little, but she refused, she said. That's all I wanted to make that happen. I never saw her again, but I'll never forget her kindness.